Guys, I went and spent my own money to find this question out for you guys. Did Spyderco screw up one of their most beloved designs after 25 years? Well, I bought one for us to find out, so let's turn this around and take a look at it from above. All right, guys, this is the military too. And there have been people that have complained and said that Spyderco screwed this knife up when they went from the original military to this. And I am going to say, I do not agree. This thing is incredible. Original packaging here. You can see I bought this with my own money. This did not come from Spyderco. You guys know I have had a checkered past with how I feel about Spyderco, but this is the military too in brown micarta and crew wear. And I got to say, I'm really impressed with this knife. I really, really am. This is not first-hand pockets because you guys know I'm working now. So this has been in my pocket for a few days now. And I absolutely have fallen in love with this. So there are some changes between this and the original military. And I've handled the original military. I loved it. And I really think that this is an improvement, while some people do not. The little changes that have been made in this are incredible. And then the change in the lock mechanism. So we're going to talk about all that. So you guys know military is an older design. It's just 25 years old. This is one of their flagship models. It's one of the mainstay models that they've had for a very long time. And Spyderco has been great about re-releasing and tweaking and improving their knives. I have been critical of Spyderco in the past. I think that phase is over. I think that things have leveled out now with what Eric's doing and his dad giving him guidance. So they're sticking more true to what the old school were. So this is a crew wear modified drop point blade that is done in a full flat grind and a satin. Now, this is not the first knife I've ever had in crew wear. I do know that crew wear is a little bit more susceptible to rust. It is kind of a upgrade to D2. So if you go look at it, and if you guys don't think I'm telling you the truth, you can look it up and see what they say. But this is got the best edge I've ever had from Spyderco. It is consistent, it is even, and it is nightmare-inducing sharp. The little changes they've done on the ergos between this and the original military are just they make what was already a great knife even better. Now, this is a knife that spawned an entire line. We're talking about the history of this a little bit. So if you guys want to skip forward to the actual review, I'll put a timestamp down here so you can do that when I start getting into the other stuff. But it spawned an entire line of knives. And if you guys remember, I said that the PM2 is probably the best all-around EDC knife you are going to find. It's just incredible. So it spawned an entire line. You've got the military, then you have the paramilitary, then you have the PM2, the PM3, just different versions of that knife. And Spyderco is famous for doing that because, like with the police, another knife that I absolutely love, they have different versions. There's a full flat grind version. There's different steels. There's some with FRN handles. But the military has been one that has been around for a very long time that just still keeps getting better. Now, into the actual parts of this. So we're going to do a quick overview because I've only had it for a few days, but what I've noticed so far is this thing is incredibly comfortable in hand. Just the sweep of this handle as it curves from the point where you've got your thumb on the thumb ramp down, it just fits your hand beautifully. You are in a very, very secure grip. The Spidey hole, which is a brilliant deployment method, in my opinion. I've always loved the Spidey hole. Yes, does it make their knives look weird? Yeah. But when it comes down to ergos, it also gives you this thing that I like to call a camel's hump, where you're up on that spine and you've got an incredible grip no matter where you're on it. The jimping on Spyderco knives, always, always good. Aggressive. So you've got jimping in both points here where you can get way up on this and you're in that pinch and you've got absolute grip and control on this and you don't have any fear of sliding up and over into the sharp, sharp blade on this. The handles, you've got a couple points of grip on this, just like you do with the PM2, that make this incredibly comfortable. But the additional size on this just seems to make this much, much more comfortable. The handles on this are nice and clean. They're flat, but they're not sharp on the edges. Means it's super, super comfortable. Spyderco, again, with their innovation and just bringing as much flexibility to you, the owner, as possible, have given you multiple points for your pocket clip. Left, right, up, down. It doesn't matter how you want to carry this knife, unless you want to carry it scout carry and then you've got to figure something out. You're going to be able to carry a Spyderco knife that way. This thing is super, super smooth. The addition of the compression lock on this gives you an addition in comfort and functionality and safety. So when you had the original ones, they were a liner. And so you would have that drop in on a liner where you could feel it, and you don't have that. So when you've got this knife in hand, you don't feel anything uncomfortable. It feels like a fixed blade because there's no cutout for the lock. And then with the fact that you can open and close this knife without ever once putting your finger in the travel of the blade makes it incredibly safe. And then just the fact that a compression lock is so much stronger than a liner lock. It really is. People will argue it. It's a proven fact. The fact that that blade drops in between this point and the stop pin, when you pull it up, just drops in like that, and it's locked in. The only way you're going to break this knife from the open position is if you break that stop pin or you shear the lock bar off itself. It's just not going to happen. It is up there with triad lock when it comes to strength. So far, this knife has really, really impressed me. I've done a little bit of cutting with it, not a lot. You can see there's not a lot of scratches on the blade, but so far, Crewwear takes and holds an incredible edge. Still the factory edge on this. It is still ridiculously sharp. It is hair whittling. Let me see if I can capture it on camera. I haven't tried to whittle hair on camera in a long time. Let's see if we can do this. This is still the factory edge after cutting cardboard, and it is still peeling hair. Now, I cut cardboard with this. You can see right here. Look at that. That is the factory edge that was on it, and it is hair whittling sharp. Just insanely sharp from the factory. Now I got to fix my autofocus. So far, like, this has been my best purchase from Spyderco ever. Like, I really have to say that. I've bought other knives from this one. Has come, it's the first time I wasn't the guy that got the lemon. And another thing that I wanted to point out, this is still heavier than the PM2, but as far as how much heavier, it's incredibly comparable in weight, even though it's significantly larger. And I mean, it's significantly larger than the PM2. And it just really, it's a very large knife. And the fact that it is comparable in weight to that knife is because they've done a bunch of weight reduction on these liners in here. So far, I have not found, and this is going to sound funny, I have not found anything wrong with this knife yet. There's a couple things that I will point out that I don't like as much as some other knives, but as far as something wrong, not yet. So I just wanted to preface that before we do flip side of the knife, flip side of the story. So there are a couple things that I wish Spyderco would change. First and foremost, while the handles are super comfortable and this knife is not as bad as, say, some of their other knives, blade to handle ratio still is wonky. I'm not going to complain too much because the fact is it's very, very comfortable, very ergonomic, like all their knives. They're ugly as a mud fence, but are they comfortable? Absolutely. And I think the problem with the blade to handle ratio is this massive lanyard hole that they provide you with that post. If it was just a hole, if it was a smaller hole, I wouldn't be as critical. But you lose, I mean, you can see blade to handle ratio, not perfect. On this one, it's better than some of their other knives. But a lot of it has to do with that tube. And the other problem with that tube is they're flared. You can see it's flared. And when you go to take this knife apart and take the scales off of it, it's a nightmare. It really is a nightmare. Now, the nice thing is these knives are fairly easy to maintenance. It does run on washers. And so you've got an area here where you can get lubrication down into it. But if you do want to take these knives apart, it can be a pain. Next thing, every Spyderco I've ever gotten when it came from the factory had blade play. This one included. I have not tightened the pivot yet, and there's a tiny bit of blade play in there. They typically tighten up nice, so you don't have any issues with losing the action on it like you do with Benchmades. But the fact is, I've never had one that didn't have a little bit of blade play this way because the pivot needs tightened. The next issue I have with it is not the knife itself. It's just a critique of the compression lock itself. That is really thin. I do understand it's just like most liners, but the way you deploy it, you're not using your thumb like you typically do with another knife. I wish they would do something to thicken this up, even if it is that they bring it up and roll it over, like Cold Steel's done on some of their other knives. I don't know if it's just an issue that they don't want to do this, or it's maybe a cost issue, but if you thickened that up, it would make it a lot easier. Now, there is an option. There is a solution. I've already got one on order, and it's the CME, which makes the compression lock just a little bit more comfortable, and it takes out some of the weirdness of having a cutout on the top, even though on this knife you don't feel it. Other than that, on this knife in particular, there's some sharp edges that I'm going to soften up on my own, but I want to try and keep this knife fairly clean and pristine for the initial view anyway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean up these sharp edges that you can see right there. There's a hard edge right there. You can actually cut thumbnail on it. It's not such a big deal, but I definitely want to soften that up. And then this little piece here, that little spot at the plunge, I'm going to soften that up. As far as anything else, I would just say that, like, I understand why they didn't go all the way back, but even Spyderco can't sharpen their knives all the way back. So Spyderco, start adding sharpening notches on your knives. It would just make everybody a lot happier. Is this knife so far, first few days, a yup or a nah? It is absolutely a yup. I do believe that for a big guy like me, that this will rival what I say is the best all-around EDC of all time, which is the PM2. I don't think it will beat it, but it's going to come up to and touching, I believe. For me, I think I like it more than the PM2, but I definitely think the functionality of the PM2 outweighs, just because it's easier to carry. It's a smaller knife. It's easier to handle. You don't have some of the balance issues, but we will see how I feel about that after the full carry. So let's turn this around, do some final thoughts, send you out about your day. Guys, I absolutely love this knife. I absolutely do. I can see why some people would say, because there's some minor changes to this, and there's a lot of fans out there that don't like it when they change things. But Spyderco still does sell the original military. I just think this is better. So yeah, this thing is great. We're going to carry it for a while. It's already been a fairly long video because I really love this knife a lot. I've always wanted a military. I find the military 2 to be more what I want because I love the compression lock and things like that. So you guys know what to do. Bunch of affiliate links down below. Take them, use them, buy stuff with them. It doesn't cost you anything extra at checkout, especially if you're going to buy knives. I have an Amazon store down below. I also have Coffee Brand Coffee Tempered Trail. There's discounts built into their links. The Amazon store, use it for any Amazon shopping you're going to do. I have a public Discord down below. There's also a private Discord if you want to become a member. You can go and do that. I also do exclusive content giveaways and a premium sharpening tutorial series. So yeah, guys, that's it on this one. Stay tuned. We'll see how things pan out on this. We'll see how the crew wear handles because it's not as stainless. But we'll see, guys. If it's your birthday, happy birthday. Keep it clean in the comments section. I love you all, and I'll see you in the next video.